From Somerville, Massachusetts, in All-America City, SPG, the Somerville Producers Group, presents the Dead Air Live Show.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Tonight we focus on film, specifically 3 nationally acclaimed filmmakers. Our first guest will be Marty Ostro, who co-produced, along with Terry K. Rockefeller, Renewal. Then joining us, his latest project, Perkins 28, Michael Van der Veer. And later in the program, Bob Nesson, nationally recognized photographer and director. Before we begin with our first guest, that little Let's Go Out to the Movies clip was shown to General Cinemas patrons throughout the 1970s. We'll see more of those little theater in-house tidbits throughout the show. I hope they bring back happy memories for those of you theater freaks out there like me. I'd also like to thank the members, all the members around me here, you guys can't see them, of the Somerville Producers Group for producing this program. This subject is very special to me. During the day, many of you know I am the studio manager here at Somerville Community Access Television. My passion, though, is film, all kinds of films. 1950s and 1960s Japanese horror flicks. Yes, I was the kid rooting for Godzilla, while the tiny little Japanese people went running screaming down the streets of their obviously cardboard cities. Science fiction, you know. Westerns, action movies, Do You Feel Lucky, Punk? Film noir, educational flicks, nature flicks, all kinds of movies. Now, that being said, here in Greater Boston, we are incredibly lucky. We are the 3rd largest TV market in the country and are home to many nationally renowned people who work in the film industry. Technical folks, animators, musicians, actors, and of course producers and directors. My 3 guests tonight I have had the pleasure to know for quite a while, and although they don't know this, I have learned something from each one of them. 3 totally different takes with these people on making movies. So why don't we just get started? My first guest is Marty Ostro. He's been a producer, writer, and director for public commercial and cable television for more than 25 years. His award-winning films include the acclaimed 90-minute documentary America and the Holocaust, Deceit and Indifference, for the PBS series The American Experience. In addition to history, Marty has made many films about science for Nova, PBS's Discover the World of Science, and the Discovery Channel. He was the producer of 2 Hours in the groundbreaking documentary series Race to Save the Planet, the first large-scale PBS effort ever to bring environmental issues to nationwide consciousness. Marty's work is known for an intimate portrait style that he brings to his subjects. His public television films about the arts have earned him not 1, not 2, but 3 Emmy Awards. Marty's films have been seen in festivals around the world. Please welcome to Focus on Film, Mr. Marty Ostro. Marty,
Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, and it's a pleasure to be here with
It's
you.
really nice to have you with us. Now, I meant that when I said that people around here don't know how incredibly lucky they are. They are surrounded by filmmakers, but they don't know anything about you guys. Nothing. Now, sometimes they've seen your work. That's very cool, but let's just start right off with the simple questions. Tell me about Marty. Where were you born? Where were you brought up? Your favorite ice cream? Your favorite color? The banal kind of regular stuff about Marty.
Oh, God, the real tough stuff.
The tough stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was born in New York.
Okay, New York.
Literally in the Bronx.
Okay.
But I think for about a day in the Bronx, that's all. I grew up on Long Island.
Okay.
And lived there until I was through high school. came to Massachusetts at that point. I went to college here at Brandeis University.
All right.
And
did you major in film?
no, I didn't, because it wasn't possible. But I went to Brandeis. Here's the story.
Okay.
When I was in high school, it's at that point that I knew that I wanted to make films.
Okay.
And how did that happen? Well, kind of an unusual thing. I'd been interested up to the point of sort of early high school in a lot of different things when I was a kid. I wanted to be an archaeologist for a while, and then I played a bunch of different instruments. I thought I wanted to be a conductor, and then I realized I didn't have the talent to do it, to be a good musician. And I liked to write things, and I could never figure out how to put all this stuff together. And one day in high school, I was sitting in the cafeteria with my best friend, and he turned to me and said, "You know what we should do?" And I said, "No, what should we do?" He said, "We should make a movie of Lord of the Flies." And it was literally like lightning went off in the room. Like, of course that's what we should do. We should go home this afternoon and start making a script for a movie, Lord of the Flies. And God knows how we were going to do this, but
sure.
This is something we were going to do, and we knew that we could do this. And we did. We went home and we took the book and started going like chapter by chapter, and and writing dialogue and all this sort of stuff. Well, that lasted with intense focus for about 3 days. And then he went on to something else,
yep.
And I stayed in the rut, thinking, okay, somehow or other, he was right, we've got to make films somehow or other. And a few months later, we actually read in a magazine that somebody was making a film of Lord of the Flies.
Yep.
And so that was kind of handled.
They stole your idea.
They stole our idea.
I hope they gave you some rights to it.
Total rights to it,
Okay.
and we still get royalties to this day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but the thing is that I read in the Village Voice, which I subscribed to when I was a kid. I read a little announcement that they were starting a workshop for teenagers in Manhattan at the 92nd Street Y.
Okay.
And so then, I think it was in my junior year of high school, I went in every weekend from Long Island into Manhattan and really learned something about making films for the first time. They had some Bolex cameras, and there were maybe 15 of us or something like that, and we got together and we all made films.
Very cool.
And it was very cool, and that's what really kind of certified it for me, that this was a way to pull together all of the things that I had been interested in before, writing and music and visual things.
Got to use them all.
And do them all, and you could do them all, and you didn't have to be a great composer or anything to be able to do it. And so that's what sort of led on a course. And then when I went to college, it was an interesting debate about whether or not to go to a film school or a school that wasn't. And I kind of decided that I was intrigued by the idea of going to a film school like UCLA or something like that, or USC that had real film departments. But I also thought, well, maybe that's not the best thing to do, because I wasn't that interested in the technical side and the techniques of filmmaking, I thought initially.
Okay.
As I was in the whole idea of being able to sort of tell stories, by using film to tell stories. And I wasn't sure that if I went to a school that was just dedicated to sort of film technique, that it would be interesting enough experience for me to really kind of develop the story side of things.
Okay.
Ultimately, I applied to Brandeis because I knew that Brandeis at the time was extremely interested in being current with the arts in general. They didn't have a film department or film school at the time, but I kind of thought, because of their interest in the arts, that if I went there, that they might start something while I was there. I just sort of like took a gamble on it.
That's fairly self-centered. Okay, sure.
Yeah. And the second year that I was there, they started a film workshop that I became part of.
Okay.
That was just total luck, and it was interdisciplinary, the workshop. So you could, in other words, if you were I was in the sociology department.
Okay.
And in the sociology department, you could go and join the film workshop and be part of that. Mm-hmm. And the reason I was in sociology, because I was really kind of interested in looking at the world around me and trying to figure out how it is that people relate and the things that they do with each other and how groups organize, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
And I thought that was kind of the closest thing maybe to the kind of things I would like to do if I made films without making films. Kind of study and observe people.
Okay.
at large. And so that's what happened. And the sociology and the filmmaking workshop somehow they came together, and I was able to do things there, and it worked well. And by the time I graduated, Brandeis then instituted a department of theater and film. And so I stayed for 2 years and got a graduate degree in that. But I think it's still an interesting question. I know a lot of young people, ask you these kinds of things who are like teenagers, and they want to.
How do I get into this?
How do I get into this? And the thing that they need to understand, I think, above anything, is that there is no one way to get into this. We all have different stories, and you sit there as a kid and you listen to these stories of people who have done things, and you feel like, well, that's the way I got to try to do it, and that's not the way. You got to try to do it your way.
Yep.
You can take certain lessons away from the things that we all do, but the filmmakers you're going to talk with tonight, I'm sure we all have completely different stories about how
radically different.
Totally different.
Yep.
And so there's no right way for Bob Nesson or the other filmmakers, to get to where they were, except for the way that they did it.
Gotcha. Let's stop right there for a second.
Yeah.
Your current project is called Renewal.
All
right.
Right.
Let me see if I can look at that. Renewal.
Oh, good.
It's even right side up, which is amazing for Bill, because usually it would be. But anyway, it's called Renewal. We're going to look at a clip, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Wonderful.
Maybe you can help me set this clip up. This is the mountaintop clip.
Okay. Let me just tell you briefly. I mean, Renewal is a 90-minute story about a new...
Take it, yeah.
Renewal.
Plug.
Renewal is a 90-minute story, a 90-minute film with actually 8 different stories in it. And each story is set in a different religious tradition. And each story looks at a different environmental issue that ordinary people like you and I are doing at the grassroots level.
Sure.
To address things like food or water or climate change.
Okay.
But why are they doing it? Because they care about those things, but because their religious traditions say that there's an important connection that they have to this broad issue about creation, about the environment.
Okay.
So they've all been spiritually led to do something about it, and that's what the film is about.
All right.
And the first clip is a story that deals with two big things you learn in this one story. One is one of the best kept secrets in the country is the crime that's being perpetrated throughout Appalachia. Appalachia is being destroyed, is being ruined by something called mountaintop removal coal mining. It's a form of strip mining.
But up top.
Up top.
Yep.
And if you were blindfolded and taken up in an airplane, you didn't know where you were. And if I took the blindfold off and I said, Bill, where do you think you are? You'd probably guess, I don't know, Arizona, Utah. You would not guess you're in the green hills of Kentucky or West Virginia or something like that. It's that devastating.
Hold it right there. Let's take a look at that and see.
Okay.
All right, let's go right now to that clip. This is from the movie Renewal. By the way, that's at renewalproject.net for those of you that want to go check it out online. Renewal, the first clip right now, about the mountaintop.
Part of the problem of mountaintop removal is that it is a well-kept secret. And if you just drive through the mountains, you may not be aware that the mountaintop removal is just over that ridge. And so the only way to really see the proportion, the extent of this devastation is to go in the air.
Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord.
The scripture tells us about how the hills sing praise to the Creator. The Bible says that God owns the hills.
In the cool of the day.
As a Christian and a doctor, the first word that comes to mind is rape. That this is something that the land doesn't want. It's obscene. It's a sin. And I can't think of another word that describes it more accurately.
Mountaintop removal is really an assault on a mountain. Through dynamite and through gigantic blasts, the top of the mountain is removed. I mean removed by 500 feet to get to the coal. This gets thrown into the valleys, and that causes flooding because you fill up the rivers and the streams. Even years later, they're just little hills with small vegetation. You can certainly get to the coal, but the point is that you have disturbed the entire ecosystem.
It's perpetual. This is not something that can be reclaimed. This is greed. This is arrogance. This is injustice. Those are all biblically understood as sin and idolatry.
When I looked out there, I kept thinking in my own self that, have we really lost our souls? Have we lost this connection with God and with the miracle of life? That this is all just a commodity to be scraped up.
Wow. Now, I have driven across the country, folks, and I will say they have done an incredible job of hiding that. He was right. You can be at tree line level driving on that route across the country, the 70, 90, anywhere across, and you can't see it.
That's right.
They've hidden it from everybody.
You think, it's just an exaggeration. You hear about these things and you go down there and drive around. I don't see anything.
Yep.
Or you see little bits of it. But
and once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not something that you can reclaim, although they pretend that
we're going to
they're doing
replant it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Put the mountain back up.
But the thing about the story is that the thing that makes it different than just a general story about this kind of coal mining is the fact that there's a religious perspective here. Mm-hmm. And the people in this first story are basically, the story was a story of a tour for religious leaders.
Okay.
Interdenominational. But primarily what we're focusing on this story are a number of evangelical leaders who were there. Mm-hmm. And people are often surprised by that.
How did you hook up with these people? How did you find this? What made you take this project on?
I had done years ago for a PBS series called Race to Save the Planet, which you mentioned earlier, 2 one-hour shows about it. There were 10 hours altogether in that series. And they took completely a perspective about sort of science and public policy to the environment. And the thing that and it was a very successful, important series that I think was a great contribution to raising general awareness about the environmental crisis at the time.
Yep.
This is in the late 80s when it aired. But the one thing that I really felt that was absent from it, and I wasn't in control of the series, I was just doing 2 of the films, was something that showed the deep, deep human connection, even the spiritual connection that we have with the earth.
Yep.
And regardless what your religious beliefs are, and you can have maybe no religious beliefs, I think people still understand that we have a mysterious spiritual connection to this thing that we don't have quite the words
is our mother, no matter how you look at it.
Absolutely.
Right? Yep.
Or you go out in the summertime and you see the stars at night, or the winter, and something happens to you, and you say, I feel that I'm somehow or other coherent with the rest of the universe, and I don't have the words to describe it.
Yep.
And so in this first story, we have evangelicals who care deeply about creation. A lot of people are surprised. They think, the evangelicals, they don't care about creation. It's just completely wrong. There are many, many evangelicals who care deeply about creation, about the environment, and about righting this kind of a wrong. And this story was largely about a group of them who were there to bear witness to this and to take the word after they went on this tour.
Yep.
The next thing later in the story you see is that they take the word to a college in Kentucky, to young people, to Berea College in Kentucky, to tell them about what they had seen, to bear witness to it.
And it got to Marty Ostro, and Marty Ostro's bringing it to the world.
Yep.
Well,
hopefully.
Now, we're running out of time, but
Okay.
I told you I was going to ask you the one interesting question. If you had all the money in the world, no budget to worry about, what project would you take on?
Oh, God, that's such a tough one. I mean, I think I would.
Eye in the sky.
I was thinking about it because I knew I knew you were going to ask this question.
He's good.
Yeah, but I couldn't come up with quite, the answer for it. Other than I think what I would do is that I would invest it in programs for children that would, I think we're missing a lot in childhood education these days.
Okay.
First of all, exposing children to nature at a very, very early age so that they
That's
have
important.
these strong connections. I mean, I think all of the virtual worlds that kids are living in are very important and great, but I'm a little afraid if they grow out of touch with nature that they're going to lose something that's very primary and necessary for all of us.
Okay.
And not only nature, but I think also the arts too, with all the cutbacks that there have been and the whole attitude. Oh, the arts are just sort of like, they're a luxury. If you can afford them, they're not a luxury. They're essential.
Core. They're core. Yep.
That's what we are as human beings. Every society that's a coherent society is always built around its arts. And
Maybe one person in one society who doesn't sing, and I'll agree with
that's
you.
right. And,
exactly.
we're letting that go, especially in the area of music.
Yep.
You know.
I hate to say it, we're out of time.
Okay. Well, I
Marty,
enjoyed it. This is
I have.
wonderful.
Thank you very much. 8 stories from the religious environmental perspective. Renewal.
That's right.
Renewalproject.net. You can find this on. If you go to your local library right here in Somerville, in Cambridge, in Greater Boston, anywhere, and they don't have it, ask them to get it. Because then you can borrow it, and your friends can borrow it, and you can share it with other people. And they can get that, and they can find out more about it at renewalproject.net.
And Earth Day is going to be 40 years old this April. So it's a perfect opportunity
Look
to,
at that, to tie in.
To do
They
programming.
made Earth Day just for this.
That's right.
Very cool. We're going to come back with our second guest, Michael Vanderveer. As we go on to our second guest, we're going to take another look at this film Renewal, and this clip is all about the blessing of an irrigation ditch. You'll see it right now, and we'd like to thank Marty for coming in again. Marty Ostro, thank you for being on Focus on Film.
Let us pray. Loving Father, Creator of the heavens and the earth, you have made water as one of your beautiful gifts for us. We ask you to bless this irrigation ditch and make it a source of life, a source of refreshment, a source of cleanliness and joy to all.
Rituals have a way of engaging the whole person. We're touched on deeper levels and see our connection with the water and with the land and with food. It can move us in our hearts and in our spirits to want to protect those things, to be the voice of that which cannot speak for itself. So San Isidro is carried to a central place in the South Valley where there's a convergence of the rest of the community. So it's a real mix of cultures and different spiritual prayers, because all of this is a prayer.
We consider ourselves indigenous to this hemisphere, to this land. We respect everything that gives us life, the sun, this here earth, and the blood of Mother Earth, which we call water. So that's our faith, that's our spirituality. We're offering ceremonies, prayers to the elements in collaboration with our Catholic and Christian brothers and sisters.
At the celebration, we have a holy elder from the Pueblo of Isleta, and he blesses in his native Tewa language the waters and the lands.
One thing that we know we have in common is the respect for the earth.
In your kindness, protect your servants who stand before you, devout and faithful.
And now, a Focus on Film video flashback.
Welcome back to Focus on Film. Before we meet our second guest, I'd just like to point out those interstitials you see between our guests are part of film history. I mean, although they'll never win Emmys or awards of any kind, these have been viewed by literally millions of moviegoers anxiously waiting for the feature flick to begin. The one we just saw was played throughout the 80s and retired in about 1995-96 by National Amusements. We know them around here as Showcase Cinemas, and I just think it's cool pieces of film eclecticness. Anyway, let us thank Marty Ostro for coming on in our first segment, and now welcome our second guest, Mr. Michael van der Veer. Michael's an author, a painter, and a filmmaker. He studied fine arts at Houston's acclaimed High School of the Performing and Visual Arts, received a BFA in film at New York School of Visual Arts, and recently completed a master's in English literature from Harvard University. Through his film company, Fabular Films, Michael has produced several films at Harvard, including Bachelor's Cottage, Ithaca, John Harvard, and Perkins 28, meditating on faces and voices that are either lost or neglected by time. Each film brings to life various individuals and epochs in American history, including the Puritans, the Victorians, and the Edwardians. He missed the colonials. We'll talk about that. Pursuing a life in art, Michael says his creative motto is, I paint with words, I write with images, I film art. For his recent exhibition of fine art and filmmaking in Cambridge, Fabular Films and Faces, running through February 5th through right now through March 3rd, the Boston Globe called him a man of all mediums. He's a medium. I am very pleased to welcome Michael van der Veer to our studio. Michael.
Bill, thank you very much. I'm very well, thank you.
Very cool. Now, I'm going to hold this up because I hold up things. I like holding things up. There we go. This is the director's cut, which I was lucky enough to see of all of his films. Right. I know of all four of your films. I've been very lucky. Okay. Bachelor's Cottage, Ithaca, John Harvard, and now Perkins 28. Mm-hmm. Right off the bat, which one was the most fun?
The most fun to produce? I think that Ithaca was the most fun.
My favorite one.
Your favorite one, there you go.
Yep, okay.
Ithaca, for me, was very exciting because I love the Victorian era. Okay. And I love the history of America naturally, and also the history of New England and the mercantile industry in New England. Yep. Certainly, it was huge.
We were shoes and leather and hats and clothing, and that was the economy here for...
Exactly, right. And I was able to tap into that with regards to our location, because we got the opportunity to shoot at the Longfellow National Historic Site, which is on Brattle Street.
How the hell did you do that?
Well, we had shot Bachelor's Cottage at Adams House, which is a student dormitory in Harvard, and we made a very lovely film about World War I soldiers returning home. Mm-hmm. Very handsome, Edwardian, and also rich in details. And I used that to approach the site manager, Jim Shea.
You sold him with the first flick.
Absolutely.
That's the way to do it, yeah.
Because what we were trying to do, at least what I was trying to do at Harvard, was to begin making legitimate, at least semi-professional films on campus, using all the incredible resources on campus, the students, and they're enormously talented, well as the locations at the university as well as nearby, including the Longfellow House. Okay. And at that time, when I approached him, they were getting ready to have the bicentennial of Longfellow's birth. Right.
Great timing.
And great timing, yeah. So he totally welcomed the project, the crew, the cast into the house for 2 days, and we had unrestricted access.
You just couldn't move anything.
We couldn't touch any we couldn't touch any of the paintings.
I remember you talking about this.
We could not sit on any of the furniture, but we could move around with complete ease.
And you did, and you can't see any of that prohibition making its way into the film.
No, because with that one restriction, I worked around that. Yeah. I brought in my own props. Right. I brought in my own furniture that they sat in.
If they've got to sit on something, you got to bring it in.
Absolutely, yes. Which was a very small restriction compared to the fact that I was being given this opportunity to shoot in this enormous Victorian historic home of Henry Longfellow.
Can you imagine the cost? If you had tried to put together a set that looked like that.
To build that set, for my resources, financial resources would have been impossible. Impossible. Because I needed a location that was rich in Victorian detail in order to create that atmosphere that I wanted.
And every piece in there is tens of thousands of dollars if you were to go out.
Absolutely. It is a museum. It is a living museum, a historic home. And somehow the site manager looked at the first film, Bachelor's Cottage, really appreciated what I was trying to do, what my mission was with Fabular Films, and saw that I surrounded myself by really incredible acting talent. And he basically said, yes, 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 come in. And we had an incredible weekend of photography. Of course, I edited the film for months after that. And I was able to sculpt Ithaca into a really wonderful homage to Longfellow's poetry.
And you did, yes.
And I did. And as well as a bow to his poetry. Because Longfellow wrote some incredible poems with lots of sea lore. Because he grew up, I think, along the coast of Maine.
There once was a man in Nantucket. No, we're not going to go there.
Okay. So he wrote two incredible poems, The Building of the Ship and The Wreck of the Hesperus. So I drew upon those.
Which I hope every kid still reads in school to this day.
Well, at least they read about Paul Revere's great run.
Yeah.
But what was really incredible about that opportunity was that opened the door for my next opportunity, which was at the Cambridge Historical Society.
John Harvard.
Yep. Right after that.
Let's stop right there for one second.
Right.
I want to make sure we get the most important thing, the current project, in.
Absolutely.
And then let's show that clip right now. This is from Perkins 28.
Correct.
Can you set up the clip we're going to see?
Well, Perkins 28 is very different than Ithaca.
Wicked different.
Wicked different. Ithaca certainly is a narrative.
Yep.
Perkins 28 is drawn from a real incident that occurred on the Harvard University campus.
Okay.
In 1920, basically the university brought together a secret court, a tribunal, to investigate.
Our Harvard did this?
Our Harvard University did that. Perhaps because there was a fear of the other at the time across America. There was a purging taking place, unfortunately, in the early 20th century. So this was a part of a larger atmosphere. So it did happen at Harvard. It could have happened in other institutions, and maybe it did that we're not aware of.
Well, this is actually just a microcosm of what was going on across the country. And
Absolutely.
It's a great look into that little piece.
Absolutely, exactly. So what happened was the court, after seeing 37 individuals, most of whom were Harvard students, they asked 8 of whom to withdraw from the university. Basically, they were expelled from the university due to either their sexual orientation or their association with other homosexuals on campus.
Really?
So it was a purge. Some may say it was a witch hunt.
Yep.
And so the court members took not really extensive, but certain documents of all the testimony. And these documents were ferreted away into a box and basically not lost, but hidden for a very long time.
Purposely hidden.
Purposely hidden, perhaps, until the Harvard Crimson, the student newspaper, found them and wrote articles that were published in November 2007 that exposed the secret court of 1920.
And that's where the concept came from.
Well, exactly. For me, what happened was I had just finished producing John Harvard.
This is the longest setup to a film ever, Frank.
Well, the connection really fast is that John Harvard was a neglected character
right.
in the university. And then these individuals, these students, were also extremely neglected and marginalized by being asked to leave the university.
Yep.
So I was basically on a kick of pursuing neglected historical characters and allowing them to speak their story. And certainly with regards to the Perkins boys, to finally speak out because their voices were silenced.
I hear you.
And this film documents the testimony of 8 students and 1 tutor who were asked to withdraw. And what we're about to see is a montage, basically, of all the individuals and the court members as well, and how adamant the court was in the investigation.
Very cool. Let's take a look at that right now. We're looking at somebody who's taking the side of the underdog. Oh, that's what I do all the time. I like that. So right now, a clip from Perkins 28.
That's Cyril Wilcox.
We should like to know about your relationship with the late Mr. Wilcox. Were you his academic tutor?
I'm not sure I know.
You certainly know if you were naked with another man. Have you ever been naked with another man?
They approached me and I was drunk. Before now, it's never been so.
Your peers indicate that it was you who tricked Mr. Wilcox into revealing intimate details about his life.
Have you been queer with a man?
No.
Have you been queer with a boy?
No.
Never screwed around with boys. Why's coming to Harvard make every man queer?
Enough! This is not a debate. We do not have time to investigate every man on campus or follow him into these cafes and hotel lobbies where this sort of thing lurks.
This is unjust. I've done nothing wrong. I'm the least involved.
I've come to the conclusion that homosexuality
is more serious than sexual intercourse. In fact, I think it's dangerous and ought to be investigated.
I admit there was one act of indecency, but just one. Only one.
Therefore, like zookeepers who must avoid the incurable specimen, we must remove you from our sight and send you down, Mr. Cummings.
But I'm not an animal.
Please refrain from excitement.
Animal. But life is just too beautiful, don't you think? Like the fairy tale says, be bold, but not too bold.
We've got some power to our clips here. Black and white.
Black and white. Black and white is beautiful.
It is beautiful,
right?
And it helps you, it throws away the distractions. And lets you focus on the character.
Right. Well, when I make a film, whether it's a Puritan film like John Harvard, a Victorian film like Ithaca, or an Edwardian film like Perkins 28, I try to go back into that time period and imagine myself as a filmmaker then with the tools that I have now, digital photography, right? But at the same time with the film vocabulary that they may have had at that time.
Daguerreotype, one color.
Absolutely,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So in 1920, we were coming right out of the silent era and right into sound films. Talkies. Exactly, yeah. So what I wanted to do was, I said to myself, as a challenge as a filmmaker, outside of the challenge of producing it and tapping into this incredible story, but for me, I wanted to tell the story as if not only was I a fly in the wall in the room during the court testimony, but also if this film was made in 1920, what would it look like? It would be a bridge.
That
bridge
makes
between,
more sense. Okay.
Absolutely. So it's a bridge between a silent era film as well as the incoming talkie films, and of course, no color.
No color.
Very important, right. And when I did John Harvard, I gave myself the same challenge. I said, how would a Puritan make a film? And perhaps a Puritan would make a very austere film, very slow, very silent, and very centered, right? So the film vocabulary changes per film because I need to be authentic and sincere to not only the historical characters, but also how they would have been interpreted by a fellow artist at the time.
I haven't noticed, and I usually look for things like this, by the way, and this is totally aside from the art making. After you finished the films, did you notice any anachronisms? Was there anybody wearing a watch? I mean, did anything silly that you noticed afterwards?
Well, I'm sure there were. I can't think of any now, and maybe they snuck into the film, so I haven't.
No, I'm going to have to look again for that. Yeah,
as myself as well. I can't think of anything. I know that sometimes in the background there may have been a modern emergency fire switch that with a little CGI I was able to take out. I think during Perkins, especially the last boy that we saw, in the background was, I believe, a light switch. Exactly. That I had to mask out very easily. But since the film is very centered, the framing is very much like a silent film. The camera doesn't swerve around. There's no handheld photography. I was able to impose a mask.
Thank goodness, because on a moving film, that would have been a nightmare to graphic out.
Well, with my budget.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that. We only have 30 seconds left. Can you imagine that?
Okay.
You must spend $1 bazillion to make these films.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I really make them.
He's a member here at Somerville Community Access Television, and that, I believe, is all shot with gear from here.
Yes, absolutely. The resources here are amazing. But also, when I make a film, as you see with Perkins, I try to start off with a very simplistic palette and a simplistic photography. Certainly, whatever's important to the story. This story, I actually needed 2 cameras, which we had here, and lighting gear, but not very complicated. So if I needed something very extensive like a dolly, I may have had to search for, if not rented it.
Or a shopping cart or something could have sufficed.
True, I've never done that, but I could in the future. You have.
Yeah.
But I try to keep the cost down.
It doesn't work, by the way.
No.
The wheels.
They shake too much, right? Yeah. No, these films I make are very artistic, and they're not so focused on the technicalities of the image, but more the artistry behind it, the atmosphere, the mood, the language within the script.
You do stay true to your story.
Thank you very much. And I spend all my energy, which is money, one would think, on...
Our time and effort is the most thing you can put into your project.
Exactly, yes. And they say that this is financially perhaps low-budget filmmaking, but in terms of artistry and skill, it's very high up there. And I spend many, many hours, certainly in researching a story like Perkins 28, making sure that the script is true to the court documents. I spent many hours in the rehearsal with the student performers, because this film is about Harvard students who were asked to withdraw. And here I'm casting real Harvard students to play their forebears.
And you're a graduate, so the last thing you want to do is make a boo-boo and have it come right back at you, because there's lots of eyes that can look at that.
Well, this is Harvard history. This is Cambridge history. It's very important. And it's also, this kind of story of Perkins 28 is relevant in 2010 with the possible review, if not repeal, on the ban of homosexuals in the military.
Don't ask, don't tell, it's going to be gone.
Well, let's hope.
Maybe.
Exactly. But when people start to review Don't Ask, Don't Tell, they will obviously go back in time to see other witch hunts that may have occurred either within the military institution or in other institutions. And here, unfortunately, at Harvard University, we did have an incident where students were asked to leave because of their disclosure, their openness of their homosexual orientation and their conduct. Don't Ask, Don't Tell prohibits that disclosure.
We're out of time. Hopefully, hopefully people can learn from the past.
Absolutely.
Through Michael's film.
Perkins 28 will be screening at the Cambridge Historical Society on March 24th.
And your exhibit goes through?
March 3rd in Cambridge at Harvard University.
Very cool. As we go to break, we're going to take a look at another clip, and because it's my show, I picked the one I wanted. So let's look at a clip from Ithaca, again by Michael Van de Veer. If you want to find out more about Michael, he's got a very strange address. Just Google Michael Van de Veer, and you'll find him. He's all over the web, IMDb. You can find him. But right now, let's look at a clip right now from Ithaca.
My grief on the sea, how the waves of it roll, for they heave between me and the love of my soul, abandoned, forsaken, to grief and to care. Will the sea ever waken? William? Relief from despair. My grief and my trouble, would he and I were in the province of Leinster or county of Clare, where I and my darling, oh heart bitter wound, on board of a ship for America bound. On a green bed of rushes, all last night I lay, and I flung it abroad with the heat of the day, and my love came behind me. He came from the south, his breast to my bosom, his mouth to my
And now, another focus on film, video flashback.
Lowe's Theaters welcomes you to the exciting world of the movies. Smoking is not permitted in this auditorium. It's the law. Certificates are available at the box office. Thanks for helping us keep the theater clean. As you exit the auditorium, please deposit litter in trash receptacles in the lobby. Please be considerate and don't talk during the show.
Thank you for coming to Lowe's. Sit back and relax. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Focus on Film. That last clip showed in Lowe's theaters from about 1978 to 1988. It's just amazing how low-tech it seems now. Again, our thanks to Lowe's theaters for that clip and for all the years of great films they brought us. So go to Lowe's and watch a movie. That's the least we can do for them. And now about our last guest, Bob Nesson. He's an independent filmmaker, cameraman, editor, writer, and producer-director. His work covers war, politics, economics, urban issues, art, science, and history. Much of his current work is on urban, environmental issues and education. A member of Filmmakers Collaborative, he's led workshops on environmental filmmaking in Russia, Turkey, and the U.S., and teaches filmmaking and the environment at Emerson College. Current projects include The Muddy River Chronicles, a film that explores the history and current conditions of the urban river, and Frederick Lowe Umsted's role in shaping it, a 13-part series about oceans and climate with Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and Da Vinci Media in Berlin, and numerous assignments as director of photography. Bob's got a BS in film. I'm hurrying because we're running out of time tonight. From Boston University and numerous awards. His production company is Nesson Media Boston. Bob Nesson is with us. How are you?
Hello, Bill.
How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Bob has been a friend of mine for years. I've worked with him on a number of projects, and I guess I'm going to jump right in. What got you started in this business?
Well, Bill, it's kind of a long story, but I will be really...
Good, we only got 6 minutes.
I was jumping out of airplanes with the 101st Airborne Division, and I started carrying a camera with me, and started writing about
You were a combat camera guy?
It wasn't combat.
Okay.
This was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay, they didn't shoot at you much then.
And, yeah.
Much.
So I got interested in still photography and in movies and in journalism at that time. And it was a good way to get out of the foxholes, get out of my recon platoon.
Sure.
So I wrote and edited the Battle Group newspaper. And when I got out of the Army, I went back to school, Boston University, and majored in economic geography.
Okay.
But I took a class called Introduction to Film.
Okay.
And I had so much fun, I said, this is what I want to do. So that was the beginning.
I've got some of your earlier professional stuff queued up. You worked with PBS on a series, Birding?
All Bird TV.
All Bird TV.
Right.
And I've got a great clip that you shot. I believe you were the photographer for this, right?
That's right. Yeah.
About some guys with a peregrine falcon. Do you mind if we show that?
Not at all.
All Bird TV. Bob Nesson shot this about the release of a peregrine falcon. Take a look.
Bird can take a breath at a high speed.
So as the animal is just screaming in a stoop, somehow there's a change in the airflow so that the animal can breathe more efficiently as it's diving. She seems to have a little attraction to your nose.
Well, that's how I got this schnoz, you know, Ken. I mean, I had one a little too close. Somebody was handing me something. I turned my head around. The next thing I know, the bird had my beak in its beak. And that's the best excuse I got for this schnoz.
Well, I'm not going to laugh that hard because that thing could have a field day with this cassava melon, so I'm going to leave it alone. More than 20 years ago, environmental contaminants put peregrines on the endangered species list. But due to extraordinary international efforts, peregrine numbers are on the rise again. For more than a decade, Bill and Tom have been taking blood samples, weighing, banding, and measuring falcons to spot check their health wherever the falcons can be found. But they want to know much more about the lives of peregrines, so recently they've launched a fabulous new high-tech venture to track the whole migratory pattern of the species. They're spying on the private lives of peregrines with satellites.
Putting a transmitter on is being married to the animal. It's our responsibility to get as much information from this individual as we can to justify our intrusion on his life.
That's right, exactly.
How's our patch?
It's right where we left it.
We're going to clamp these down when we're satisfied with the fit, and that'll be that.
There's a battery in here, a computer chip in here, and a transmitter that actually sends the signal. So you've got three components, a battery, a transmitter, and the little computer chip. This antenna, which I always think of as a receiving antenna, is this a transmission antenna?
Only transmit.
That's amazing. Isn't that amazing that a tenth of a watt can talk 550 miles up in the air? It is to me. How gorgeous, how beautiful. And the information it'll tell us, I can't wait. Goodbye, sweetheart. I love you too.
That's a good one.
Now, the Argus satellite system, 550 miles above, goes to work. Wherever this peregrine soars, Seeger can track her on his computer, day in, day out.
And we're back. There's majesty in that. Setting that bird free and watching it sail among, just amazing.
That was so much fun, and it was a complete accident. Bill Seeger, the guy with the schnoz, he is from the University of Maryland, Baltimore campus.
Okay.
And he's about 6'7".
Okay.
And he had this wonderful, gentle way. He's a biologist. And we followed those falcons from that location, which is South Padre Island, up through Chesapeake Bay as they flew north. And one population split and went up to Greenland, and the other population went up to Alaska, right way, way above the Arctic Circle. And we followed that group up around the Sag River, where there are more mosquitoes per square inch than sand.
We've only got about a minute left. Let me interrupt right now. You teach filmmaking right now at Emerson, filmmaking and the environment.
That is the course I'm teaching this semester, yes.
Since we only have a minute left, and I'm going to have you on again because this is not nearly long enough. If you had to talk to somebody right now, and I'm sure you do all the time, here's somebody, a kid straight out of high school, maybe in college, says, how do I get started doing this? What do you tell them?
Get yourself a little camera. Learn how to use it. Come to SCAT, take a class.
I love a plug. A plug is always good. Sure, why not?
And learn the basics. Okay. And then find a character that you can follow or a situation that means something to you and start in and make a short YouTube film and then take it from there.
Got it. Bob Nesson, NessonMedia.com. Hope to see you back again soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bob. And that's going to do it for our program this evening. Thank you all for joining us on Focus on Film. We'll see you again next time in 2 weeks right here at SPG, the Somerville Producers Group.